Rano Devi is about to obtain a loan. It is an opportunity she has never had before.
I'm taking a loan to buy a sewing machine. I'll own it. It's for my own business, to make things easier for us.
CASHPOR India, a microfinance institution, came to Rano's village almost 2 years ago. Many of Rano's neighbors are already members.
I own a shop where I sell clothing, ready-to-wear garments.
I borrowed $100 to buy a produce cart. I'm selling eggs and vegetables on it.
I borrowed $50 and invested in a cycle repair shop.
I sell vegetables.
I bought a buffalo.
Rano and her neighbors did not automatically qualify for a loan. They had to meet CASHPOR India's standards. Above all, they had to be poor. CASHPOR India works in the district of Mirzapur, in the state of Uttar Pradesh. In Mirzapur district alone, there are almost 2 million people. Over 60% of them live below the poverty line. CASHPOR India has made a commitment to provide financial services to the poor and the very poor.
In order to make sure that we do not waste our time and resources, we have to try to do this in a way in which there are few leakages to the non-poor.
What we know from our own experience is that if we start to shift our resources towards the non-poor, the whole program changes direction and opportunities never come to the poor.
The poor feel very uneasy in a program with the non-poor because the non-poor make them feel it. What are you doing here? You won't be able to repay. You're going to spoil the whole program. You can't even read.
There is another dimension to CASHPOR India's commitment to reduce poverty. CASHPOR India is working to reach financial self-sufficiency.
It takes time to reduce poverty. A poor household cannot come out of poverty with 1 or 2 small loans. It may take 5 or 6 or 8. Without building the sustainable institution, we can't make a significant impact on poverty.
To work towards self-sufficiency, CASHPOR India has struggled to keep costs down. But it must also spend time and money to determine each family's poverty level. This, then, has been CASHPOR India's challenge: how to find and serve the poor and the very poor in a way that is affordable.
How much further does this village go?
Go this way to the end.
Sudhir Kumar Singh is a customer service representative, or CSR, for CASHPOR India. He has entered the village of Mirpur for the first time. He employs a technique which enables him to quickly identify poor households. It is the CASHPOR House Index. The CASHPOR House Index is based on the fact that in most cultures, a family's house is an accurate indicator of its wealth.
In India, it is a tradition that people build houses according to their wealth. The first 3 necessities of any human being are food, clothing, and shelter. A man improves his house even with a little money.
People tend to be house proud, and as soon as they have any surplus income, they tend to spend at least some of it on improving their housing conditions.
But how can the outside appearance of a house reliably tell staff members whether or not a household is poor? CASHPOR India has identified specific elements of house construction which can be quantified. It assigns a certain number of points for each element. The more expensive the element, the higher the number of points. Adding up these points gives each house its total score.
It is completely quantitative. There should not be any difference in the score if two different CSRs are indexing the same house.
If the score is too high, a household is immediately eliminated from further consideration. This allows Sudhir and other CSRs to concentrate on families whose houses indicate that they are most likely poor.
What work do you do?
I work for others.
Do you think that instead of working for others for very little money, you might like to work for yourself?
That would be good.
CASHPOR India staff members measure just two things. First, the height and materials of the walls. And second, the materials of the roof. Limiting the number of elements in the house index is an important way to control costs.
70% of our staff are field staff. In order to minimize the time they spend on identifying the poor, we've had to minimize the number of items in the house index. If we can reduce by a few minutes the time it takes to find out whether they are poor or not, we can save thousands of rupees.
These two indicators can quickly eliminate as many as 70 or 80% of the non-poor houses in a village. The height of a wall and the materials used in making it can speak volumes about a household's wealth. Walls less than 4 feet high receive a score of 0 points. Very little labor or materials are used to make them. Mud walls between 4 and 8 feet high are assigned 1 point. These walls are made of readily available materials, but require more labor and skill to erect. Mud walls that are more than 8 feet high are given 2 points. These walls require still more materials, labor, and skill, and some kind of internal support. Brick or concrete walls, which are taller than 4 feet, are awarded 4 points. These materials are expensive and require skilled craftsmen and much manual labor to erect.
It means they have big plans. They planned and built a foundation. They hired outside laborers. So there would be more investment in this type of house.
The materials of the roof are also a strong indicator of a family's resources. If the roof is composed of thatch, straw, leaves, or plastic, it receives a score of 0. If it is made of galvanized iron or clay tiles, it is assigned 1 point. A wood plank roof or concrete roof is given 2 points to reflect the high cost of materials and labor. The scores of the walls and the roof are combined. 2 cutoff points are established to separate households into 3 groups: the non-poor, the moderately poor, and the very poor. If the score of the house index is at least 4, the household is classified as non-poor.
If we look at this wall, we see that it is made of bricks. This house will not qualify. The wall is 4 points, and we only take houses that are 3 points or less. We give 1 point to this tile roof, so the total score is 5. This is not within our target.
If the score is 3, the household is tentatively listed as moderately poor.
Because this house has bricks in the wall, it does not appear to fall within the house index target. It looks like they just put mud over the bricks. But if we look closely, we see that the person who made it used mud instead of mortar to bind the bricks. So it was put together in a haphazard way. So it is really a mud wall 8 feet high. It's 1 point for the tile roof and 2 for the walls, so the house scores only a total of 3 points.
If the House Index score is 2 or less, the family is classified as very poor. It will be given the highest priority.
We'll give this house 1 point for the height of the wall. And when we take a closer look at the roof, we see that the tiles are very old. But it's actually quite sturdy. It rests on the walls. Not like next door where the roof is not part of the walls, it's just thrown on top. We would give 1 point to the roof and 1 to the walls, so we would give a score of 2 to this house. Looking at this house, we see that in no place is the wall more than 4 feet. And the roof is not resting on this wall, but the neighbor's. On top of the neighbor's roof, they have put their roof. This wall is 0 points, and so is the roof, since it is only straw. So this house is classified as very poor. The score is 0.
The House Index will be reliable only if the staff is trained to use it in a consistent way. The training process, however, is fairly simple.
We have found by initially showing pictures, slides of houses on the wall of the training room, that we can gradually get them to think in the same categories. Then we find that within 2 or 3 days they can produce quite reliable results.
Only occasionally is a house not easily classified.
When we first look at this wall, we might say it's brick. It would be 4 points, out of our target. But if we look more closely at how it is made, most of the bricks are broken. This one is broken, and this one. They did not use any skilled labor. They built it themselves. It is a borderline case. The CSR should consult with the branch manager and other supervisors.
CASHPOR India's staff does not regard the House Index as foolproof.
It is just a quick estimate of where a person stands. It helps save time. Otherwise, if you go to 10 people's homes and spend the whole day conducting interviews, you may find that only 3 of them qualify.
One is not saying that poverty is about the house alone. One is trying to use the house as a quick way of dividing between the likely non-poor and the likely poor. But we have to go a step further than this. This is just the first step.
Good afternoon. Are you cooking food here for your family?
Yes?
Is your husband at home?
He's not here. He's working for someone else.
Sudhir now returns to visit the families whose houses he qualified under the House Index. He introduces CASHPOR India to each family and verifies that they do indeed qualify for a loan. CASHPOR India is modeled after Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. Like Grameen, CASHPOR India loans money only to women. CASHPOR India's experience has been that loans to women have greater impact.
Sometimes it happens that when you loan money to the man, he will benefit. But unfortunately, the whole family will not. If you want to see the development of the whole family, then you really have to loan to women.
The more impoverished the family, the more apprehensive both the wife and the husband tend to be. Hirawati Singh is the customer service representative in Rano Devi's village.
First, I sit with them and just talk. If you're complete strangers, then conversation is the only way to come together.
I was afraid of the cash poor worker. When she came to visit, I would hide and pretend that I was ill. I used to be so afraid.
When the cash poor representative came here, some of us understood him, and others became afraid that if we didn't repay, that someone might arrest us.
We were all worried whether we could repay the money.
When he explained everything, then we all understood it, that we could take the loans, do our work, and pay it back, that there was nothing to be frightened about.
I need to ask you questions about whether you're poor.
Sir, please ask.
I'll need to look inside your home.
You may look. Over half of us are poor. The river has changed course. Our farms are underwater. So we have many difficulties.
For each household, Sudhir completes what CASHPOR India calls Form Number 1 to determine whether the family is truly poor. Form Number 1 focuses especially on productive assets. A family's asset level is a strong indicator of its ability to survive emergencies and to generate income.
Income is something that is very difficult to determine exactly, especially when it is irregular. So assets are an easier way to determine their poverty level than estimates of income.
CASHPOR India has identified several key assets that are reliable predictors of whether a family can make an adequate living.
Okay. Do you have any land?
No.
No land.
Irrigated farmland is one of the most important assets a family can have.
If a woman has even a small piece of farmland and it's irrigated, she can grow plenty of food.
Livestock?
One buffalo.
The buffalo is not ours, it's on loan.
Ownership of large farm animals is also a sign that a family has the means to generate an adequate income.
If the person owns a buffalo, they may have a very good business. If it gives lots of milk and they can sell the milk, it's worth 10,000 or 15,000 rupees, which means the owner is not very poor.
The CSR looks for other productive assets as well.
A family may not have any land, they may live in a mud house and they may have no animals, but perhaps they own a big tube well and provide water to others, or they have an old tractor for farm work.
What kind of work do you do?
Field work.
While it is often difficult to measure a household's income, it is still important to know what kind of income it is.
When you ask about the husband's work, if they say it's seasonal, it means that he doesn't have a regular source of income. Whatever job he gets, he will do. He isn't skilled in any job.
If a woman engages regularly in agriculture labor, this is almost surefire indication of the poorest, because women don't do agriculture labor unless they are desperate.
The information listed on Form Number 1 is sufficiently detailed to make a final determination of a family's poverty status.
The name on this form number 1 is Rano. We conclude from this form that they do not have any lands, their income sources are irregular, they have no livestock or other assets except for a goat. So they're definitely poor.
Rano and her friends must attend a series of training sessions before they will be qualified to borrow. They begin by learning the CASHPOR India Pledge, a verbal contract which spells out the obligations which they and CASHPOR must meet.
If you keep your promises faithfully, I shall always loan you money on time. During the training session, which usually lasts around 7 or 8 days, it becomes clear who really wants to join and who does not. Speak, Neon.
I want to buy a cart to carry goods.
A cart. How much is the installment for 3,000 rupees?
Hirawati makes sure the women understand fully how CASHPOR India works and what's expected of them.
If you have money in your savings account, the company will pay you 8% a year. Do you understand why it's important to save? You won't have to ask for money if you've saved. If your children are sick, you can take money out of your account and take care of them.
After several training sessions, it is time for Rajesh Kumar Mishra, the branch manager and Hirawati's supervisor, to check the progress of the group. Rajesh first visits the women's houses to verify their living standards.
Whose house is this? Ah, there she is. You are Rano? Ah, you are the group leader.
Yes.
What do you do? You're not in the field harvesting.
I don't go.
She has a baby.
Food is prepared here. Let me see.
He also checks the House Index score.
If we look at this wall, we see that it is a mud wall. It has a height of 6, 8, actually a little more than 8 feet. So we'll give this house 2 points for the 8-foot wall, and we'll give it 1 more point for the tile roof. So the total score is 3 for this house. You have a verbal contract. Come on time to the center meeting. If you come on time to the center meeting, we can fill out your paperwork on time, we can disperse your money on time. First, you must complete your verbal contract.
Then Rajesh pronounces them ready for the final step.
We promise to God.
We promise to God
To come to the center meeting on time.
to come to the center meeting on time,
To invest the money in our work.
to invest the money in our work,
To use the profits for our families. To use the profits for our families.
It is the next morning. Sanjeev Kumar Yadav, Deputy Financial Service Manager, joins Rajesh and Hirawati in the village.
How much land do you own?
farmland. Nothing, sir, nothing. There is no irrigation. Nothing can be done with it.
How much land do you own?
Maybe 10 meters by 20,
10 by 20?
unirrigated.
It is his job to conduct the group recognition test. It is a final examination of the prospective members to certify them as borrowers. Once again, the examination starts in the village at the women's homes. And once again, the House Index score is verified.
The House Index is used by at least 3 different people in our organization. All of them check the score on the House Index to make sure it's correct. So this is a quality control measure which also proves the reliability because rarely we have to change.
If someone stops paying her installments, what will you do?
I will pay if she's not able, once or twice.
How long can you keep repaying?
As long as she has problems,
Suppose it's a long illness. What then?
we'll pay it anyway.
Sanjeev certifies the women as borrowers and officially recognizes their groups. Together, they reaffirm their contract.
We promise to God.
We promise to God
To come to the center meeting on time.
to come to the center meeting on time,
To invest the money in our work.
to invest the money in our work,
To use the profits for our families.
to use the profits for our families,
And to support our group.
and to support our group.
We ask God's help.
We ask God's help.
If you keep your promises faithfully, I shall always loan you money on time.
Versions of the House Index are now used by over 20 organizations throughout Asia, including programs in the Philippines, Nepal, Vietnam, and China. The actual elements of the House Index vary greatly from culture to culture.
What works here in Mirzapur might not necessarily work in some other place. Our version of the House Index might not be successful in another country because the size and structure of houses will be different. But there will always be gradations in housing costs.
And in a country like India, we have 3 or 4 variations of the CASHPOR House Index. So it has to be adapted, but the process of adaptation is not a terribly difficult one if one understands the theory and concept behind the housing index.
Madama,
$5.
Sankata,
$5.
Tara.
I only think about expanding my business. I think of nothing but my business because I've done so well with the loans.
My repayments are $2 a week, but I earn $4 to $5 a week. So I make a profit of $3 from the loan.
If I were to ask anyone to loan me 25 cents, no one would. A person who had nothing is eating well and taking care of her children.
When I buy the sewing machine, I can help provide food for the family. We pay back the loan and then we'll own the machine.